Come join the revolution of hope. Hurting people desperately need to restart their lives. They often struggle and fail, hijacked by addictions, trauma, abuse.
And the longer I stay in negative emotions, the more desperate I get until I'm barely hanging on.
They're just plain stuck, and relationships collapse in a dead end.
What is wrong with you? I mean, look at all the other trees around you here in the forest. What are you doing on your side? You know the way to go. You know what a straight and narrow path looks like. Why aren't you on it? It can't get up. It's too wounded. A lot of the strategies that we try to help hurting people just make things worse.
Do you wish you had a more effective recovery program? Do you pray for people's lives to change permanently?
Welcome to Restarting.
Restarting is a revolutionary, solution-based approach for building joy, receiving inner healing, and developing life-giving relationships. Restarting is unashamedly Christian.
This is God's idea that our brain functions best when we're joyful and bonded together. In fact, God said, "Let us make man in our image, in our likeness." When God was done, He looked at everything and said it was good, but when He made you and me, He said we were very good. The Lord God walked through the garden in the cool of the day with Adam. And guess who was there when Adam was doing that great stuff with naming all the animals? God.
This recovery program is unique in 3 major areas. It provides healing and brain retraining, and it integrates people in recovery with Christian community instead of anonymous recovery.
Always, joy means relationship, and that means that we're glad to be together. So recovering our life means becoming connected in joyful relationships with God and others that produce genuine joy and help our brains heal.
Restarting goes beyond traditional treatment, current support group methods, and secular or spiritual approaches to recovery.
Let's take a look at the 6 negative emotions that we all need to understand. Anger. I'm angry, and I'm going to make you stop it, and stop it right now. Fear. Uh-oh, are they there? Will they see me? Shame. I am not bringing you joy. Oh, disgust. Oh, look at those bugs. How does my brain learn to get back to joy from negative emotions? The control center of your brain and the control center of my brain, the only way it can learn this trick is through relationship. In fact, the neat thing about God is that even if we're stuck in negative emotions, or we don't feel good enough to attach to Him, or we're stuck in things that we feel ashamed of, God is totally committed to joyful relationship with us. How much more committed do you have to be to die on the cross so that God could have secure relationship, secure attachment with you and me? Jesus said, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. And if anybody hears my voice, then they'll open the door. I'll come in and dine with him, and he with me." That's pretty special. You probably didn't know this, but you have a mental banana. Now this is like your cingulate cortex, because the cingulate cortex is your mental banana. The cingulate is the part of my brain that processes negative emotions and help me get unstuck. It's called the mother core because it's pretty much downloaded from my mom. I learned to process negative emotions a lot like she does, because this is a skill I learned in my 2nd year of life. It's the center for learning how to share emotions with you and for learning how to process emotions internally. It's not something that I can read about in a book. For me to get back to joy from negative emotions, I need 3 things. And the first is I need someone else like you who's got a trained banana. The second thing I need is I need you to be glad to be with me right in the middle of the mess of my negative emotions. You have to have a happy banana. a banana that has more joy than I've got pain. And a third thing is I need you to be glad to be with me right in the middle of my negative emotion. When my attachments are secure, my life is filled and powered with joy, and so is yours. That means that we can synchronize with each other. And when we synchronize with each other, we can work and bond together in joy. And that's a great way to be together, because then we can fulfill our purpose and our destiny together. There are 3 non-secure attachment styles. Dismissive attachment means that I tell you to back off. You know what? I'm not really sure about this at all. Distracted attachment. Hey, here I am, it's me, over here. Why didn't you call? I had so much I wanted to talk to you about. I called you yesterday and you didn't call me back, so I called you again. Do you know how many times I called you yesterday? Disorganized attachment. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? He's drinking again. I know he's drinking again. But if I find him, I'm going to kill him. But if I get too near him and he's drinking, I'm going to get hurt again. I got beat up last. What do I do? What do I do? And it's probably my fault again. It always ends up being my fault. No matter what I do, it's my fault. What happens when we're not securely attached? We experience attachment pain. Attachment pain is about the worst kind of pain that we have because it affects level 1 of the control center. And when level 1 hurts, everything in the brain hurts.
Restarting offers hope for those who have tried other approaches and still feel hurt, empty, alone, and ashamed of their struggles and behaviors.
We live our lives in continuous reaction to being poked from behind until life is totally unmanageable. A lot of the strategies that we use in recovery are totally wrong. Think about pain, the pusher, continually assaulting the right side of my brain. And think about all the good information that people tell me that's left-brained. It doesn't do anything to stop this from happening. Ed, don't do that. My brain says, but I hurt. We're created to securely attach to God and other people. And if those attachments are broken or not secure, life's very painful. And we will attach to something to try to make the pain stop. And that's when we medicate to regulate the pain that we can't control. Beeps are behaviors, events, experiences, people, and substances that we use to artificially regulate emotions, both positive and negative, pain and pleasure. Beeps help us artificially regulate what we can't internally regulate. The problem with beeps is they take the place of secure attachments to God and to other people that we need to build joy and really change our brain and learn new brain skills.
All too often, people get free of one addiction only to fall into another.
Our lives become unmanageable because our attachments to beeps are totally below a level of consciousness. Beeps affect the attachment center of the brain. You remember that's level 1 of the control center. The brain is designed so that dopamine and endogenous opiates, or endorphins, are released when people are glad to be with us. And this is the neurochemistry of joy. But beeps fool the attachment center. Beeps also trigger the release of dopamine and stimulate the pleasure center of the brain. They mimic genuine, joyful relationships. And in this way, the attachment center is fooled into attaching to beeps to regulate emotions, pleasure, and pain. They literally hijack the attachment center of my right brain. The attachment center learns to rely on beeps and not healthy attachments with God and others that would produce genuine joy. Beeps literally hijack the attachment center. And when beeps take over, they grab the cockpit and they take us to places that we never wanted to go.
Trauma affects the control center of the brain, much like addictions.
That means I'm going to experience ongoing trauma. So what is trauma? Trauma is anything that diminishes us as people. It makes us feel puny and small and weak and helpless and insecure. Trauma overwhelms our emotional capacity to handle an experience. I'm diminished, and I can't live from the heart that Jesus gave me.
Restarting addresses the root cause of both addiction and trauma.
When we learn to apply the 12 steps relationally to attachment pain, our hearts can heal from trauma. We can learn to attach to others in joy, and our recovery is thriving.
Restarting incorporates the latest advances in neuroscience. The 12-part series teaches strategic skills that build joy, retrain the brain, and promote healing.
Let me introduce you to my friend, Dr. Jim Wilder. And Jim is going to share with you this week's three-dimensional living brain moment.
Today we're looking at the three-dimensional image of a brain from below. This brain's been using drugs and alcohol for a while. You see it's shot full of holes. Now if you actually looked at the brain, there would be brain tissue there. What you're looking at is the lack of activity. That brain is not in use. After a year of sobriety, however, you will notice that there's a lot more of the brain working, but it's not the same as what you had if you have a normal, healthy brain. Sobriety doesn't give you back a normal brain. Here's a drug-using brain of a 18-year-old marijuana smoker who's been using marijuana for 4 years. You can see that where there used to be lively active tissue, it's now gone. Here's a 38-year-old man who's been drinking for 17 years, just on the weekends. And again, you see these two massive holes up there. Those holes are the equivalent of giving yourself a lobotomy. You might ask yourself, why would I want to do that? What we're trying to do is to find joy somehow. And that's what that part of our brain needs. That's also what it needs in order to wake up and retrain. Isn't it time we got our brains back?
Restarting helps the brain learn to regulate emotion, pain, and pleasure, so beeps are no longer needed. Restarting is the first module of Thriving Recover Your Life.
Thriving Recover Your Life has a unique training flow. Restarting is designed to help you jumpstart your recovery from trauma or from addictions, or begin recovery for the first time. Forming is a discipleship program that helps build a Christian identity that is joyful. Belonging helps create joyful community and helps us practice the 19 brain skills that we need to thrive. Part of what we experience when we're trying to recover from trauma or addictions is that we tend to isolate into recovery community from trauma or from addictions. We end up isolated. Well, belonging brings together people with trauma, people with addictions, and people that are just growing a deeper walk and deeper identity in Jesus. In healing, we learn to experience the presence of God in a way that helps us heal. Loving helps us take everything we've learned throughout the entire thriving process and apply it to relationships with those we care about the most. As you complete loving, you and the people that you love can begin to build joy and brain skills and bonds together. And if the people you love are in too much crisis, there's a special thriving crisis unit to help them stabilize so that they can begin to build joy with you.
Participants in restarting groups learn to rewire their brains through joyful, secure relationships with God and others. As joy builds, they handle distress better and can live from their heart.
But I really want to ask you this question. Is your relationship with God working for you? When I securely attach to Him in joy, when I turn my will and life over to His care, my life will never, ever be the same again, and He will attach to me with great joy.
Is restarting just what you're looking for to revolutionize your church, recovery program, or other ministry?
You and the people you love and your entire community can be thriving.
Come, Join the revolution of hope